today. It's kind of been a long time coming. We've been talking about getting former members on a video and doing some interviews. And so today we're actually going to do that. Today we have Jordan Young on, and he was a 15-year member of the World Mission Society Church of God. And so today we got him here. He's come on to talk to us and kind of share some of his story. And so, yeah, I think kind of what my desire for this is really just to inform people. We were just talking to Jordan and kind of saying, it's one thing for me and Jesse to sit here and tell you about the church and tell you about the things that are wrong about it from the outside, but we've never been in the church. But then to talk to somebody who has been involved in the church for the majority of his life, there's a whole nother level of credibility. And so as he's talking today, I would just really encourage you, especially members of the church, just to listen to what he has to say. And I've watched a couple of his videos, and you can just tell that he's a humble guy. He's not just out to get people. He's not just out to slander the church. He's not trying to lie about them. He just speaks just plainly what his story was and what his experience was, and he doesn't really err on either an overly negative side or overly positive side. He just kind of tells it how it is, and so yeah. So Jordan, thank you for coming on today.
Hey guys, what's going on?
And also, man, what a great name, Jordan. That's DAN too, right? Is that?
Yeah, DAN.
Okay, yeah. Our moms had the right idea, I think.
Exactly, yeah.
Well,
Jordan and Jordan.
Yes, exactly. Well, yeah, thank you for coming on today. And so I think up front, tell people where can they find your videos, because you've put out some videos already about the church, right?
Yeah, I mean, you can pretty much search WMSCOG cult, and it'll be probably one of the first 10 results. My name is Jordan Young, of course, so you can search my name in there. I've made sure that, people can find my videos by searching my name, Jordan Young, WMSCOG cult, something like that. They'll be able to find the videos pretty easily.
Great. Cool. Well, I think really quick, we don't have to spend a ton of time on this specific question, but one of the first questions we wanted to ask you is, I guess just kind of like a summary of what the story is of how you became involved in the church initially. And I know you said you were pretty young when you joined, and so kind of what's the story there? What happened to get you involved in the church?
Yeah, so basically, it was a random Sunday afternoon, and me, my younger brother, and my grandmother, we were out shopping on just one afternoon. And at the time, we were living in Inglewood, California. And we were just doing our shopping that day. And then as we were about to go home, literally as we were about to step into our car, this lady, and she had her two younger daughters with her. I guess they were shopping as well. And she was just running up to us, like just yelling, like, stop. Like, let me, I have something to show you and whatever. And then, I was so young, of course. And all I remember is they're just talking about the Bible, And then next thing you know, we're on our way, I'd say about an hour trip up north
Wow.
to some church located in Sutherland, California. And I just remember getting there around the afternoon time, and we just got baptized. And I just remember there being a lot of Asian people in the church. I didn't know what a Korean was at that young age. So I was like, wow, there's a lot of Chinese people here. I was such a young child.
Yep.
Yeah, so I thought it was strange. It was different, of course, from the other churches that we've been to before. So it was really different. But yeah, that's pretty much how it started. My grandmother met one lady, stopped her in the process of us going home, and she just preached to her about the doctrine, Sabbath day, Passover, God the Mother, whatever. And next thing you know, we were baptized.
Wow.
That's the only thing I remember really, just seeing what kind of people were in the church, mostly Asian, and the baptism as well. And I thought when I was being baptized under the name of Anzang Hong, I was under, again, young mind, I was under the impression that that's how you said God in Chinese.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you said
that was my.
It was you and your mom and a sibling, or that joined the church?
Say that again.
Who was it that joined the church? It was you and your mom.
Me and my grandmother.
Your grandmother,
and
okay.
My younger brother.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so, would you say that your grandmother had much of a biblical knowledge at that time?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure if she was really very knowledgeable about the Bible per se. But I do know that she was looking for a church.
Okay.
She was going to many churches. We even went to one church where it was one of those churches where it was televised.
Oh, yeah.
One of those Sunday churches on television. And yeah, we just went to so many churches. But we lived a normal life, before that point. We lived just a normal life. She wasn't really too focused on trying to study the Bible, but she was at a point where she was looking for a church, and she happened to be approached by this one lady who preached her about what made it seem like the Bible made so much sense. She thought the Bible had made so much sense when this lady was talking to her, was preaching to her about it. So that was the end of that, and then ever since then it was boom, every single Saturday, every single Tuesday, all the feasts of God that they teach, never missed one. So it was nonstop. That was the beginning of it, and up until when I left 2018 November, it was just nonstop.
Cool. Okay. Well, hey, I want to ask you a question, but before I ask that question, I feel like this would be wise for people. This question is going to be for people who are on the edge right now, who are looking into these things, watching our videos. So before you say this to them, could you, and I don't know what it would be, whatever comes to your mind, what do you think they would need to hear from you to know that you were actually a member? It could just be 2 or 3 things. Just something before they hear my next question, that they know, okay, he must have been in if he knows this.
Well, I still know I know they teach the 13 teachings of Mother.
Okay.
There's 13 teachings of Mother
I didn't know that.
members were required to memorize. So I think I still have those fresh in my memory.
Really?
Yeah.
What are they?
It was
you don't have to do all 13.
Okay, the first one is, it is more blessed to give love than to receive, as God always gives love. I think the second one is, when we give glory to God, the glory returns to us. The third one is, a beautiful mind has no hate, but brings forth a perfect love. Number 13 is, even God didn't come to be served, but to serve.
Wow.
When we serve one another without wanting to be served, God will be pleased. So
I think that's good. I think you just proved
to become a greater vessel.
Yeah.
I mean, I still have those really.
Wow. Yeah, they're in your head. That's good. Awesome. Thanks. Before I ask this, I wanted people to know. So my question.
Oh, yeah, they'll definitely see that.
Yeah. So my question is not even like I don't know. I had this in my heart driving over here. I was thinking, what would be a good question to ask him for people, since we're getting all these emails today? What would you speak to somebody right now? Not even a combative, this is why the church is wrong, but more just, what would you say from your heart, with maybe the peace you feel now being out of it, to somebody who's on the edge, they're doubting it, and they're watching this video right now? What would you speak to them?
Yeah. Well, one big thing is, it's already proven that the church has gone after people in trying to sue them for speaking out against the church, and that if someone knows the Bible, if anyone knows the Bible, that's a huge no-no, right?
Yeah.
I think it's in 1 Corinthians or something like that.
Yeah, that's right.
Where you should not sue your neighbor.
Yeah.
So already that's, something like suing someone, that's a huge red flag already. You're trying to sue someone for speaking out, whistleblowing, whistleblowing against the church. So I would really want people to see that, like, yeah, this church actually tried to sue people for speaking out against the church. Like, that's a huge red flag. How do you dispute that?
And the interesting thing about that is that even in 1 Corinthians, Paul is telling this to like individual believers in the church. He's telling them to not sue one another in court. And so the World Mission Society is really taking it to a worse and more intense level, because it's the ruler, like the lead people, it's the organization itself that is doing the suing. It's not just the members within the group. It's actually like, this is the leadership saying, this is how we operate. If people say things that are wrong about us, we're going to retaliate. And if you compare that to just Jesus, compare that to Jesus's life. People were punching him in the face and ripping his beard out. And he just said, Father, forgive them. He didn't say, Father, sue them.
Sue them. Take them to court.
Get them back. Like they're he trusted his Father to take care of his needs.
Exactly. Yeah.
So that's a good point.
Awesome.
Another one would be like the Roman Society Church of God likes to boast about their awards so much, And I know in Matthew 6:1, it says, try to do your good deeds in silent. Don't throw all your words out there to the world to let them see. And that's what the church does. Like, they have so many videos. They have, if you ever walk into a church, like, one of the first things that you'll see are like plaques on the wall of like many awards and certificates that they've received. Trying to, of course, gain validation from themselves, of course. So that's another thing. Yeah. Jesus taught in Matthew 6 verse 1, to do your good deeds in silence.
Right.
Try not to show them.
Yeah. He talks about like if you do your rewards and like you sound a trumpet and all that, and you like make a big deal and a show about it, like he says, then you've had your reward. Like, basically your reward is that. It's that experience. It's not going to come from God, because he's seeing that in your heart. You're not doing it for him. Yeah. And that's interesting, because me and Jesse have been the local church here. We've been in there. We were in there multiple times. We've gotten to visit until we eventually got kicked out by the deacon, I think is what they call him. So, which is understandable. I mean, I'm not like talking against the guy. Like
he wasn't mean. He politely asked us to leave.
And if I was in his position, I would kick us out too, probably. We weren't being rude or anything, but he just saw us as a threat. But anyways, I think almost every time we went in the church, one of the first things they would do is they'd say, "Have you seen our wall? Have you seen the
Queen's Award?
Have you seen the plaques on the wall?" And
the Queen's Award.
Yes.
So anyways, there's definitely some issues there with the suing and the boasting, that both of those things, that by the fruit you will know what kind of tree it is. And so when you're seeing that sort of fruit from the group, it's kind of telling.
I actually have a random question.
Go for it.
So you were in there from 6 years old?
About, I'd say.
Man, that's got to be this is the first time we've met anybody that was a kid that entered in. So you probably did a lot of evangelizing, a lot of going out. I'm curious, was there an age where you started questioning? And then also, was there ever any time you ran into somebody who challenged you guys, and it actually made you go home and be like, oh, snap, I don't have an answer to that? Or I'm just curious, did anybody ever respond to you in a way that caused you guys to trip up a little bit?
So to answer your question, so I started going out evangelizing when I was about 15 years old, which is very unusual in the church, because they usually want you to start when you're 18.
Okay.
They usually want you to start evangelizing when you're 18 years old, just for any type of legality issue or something like that. But the reason why I was able to go when I was 15 is because I was like 6 feet tall, and I had looked older. I had looked the part. So I was thankful at the time that I was able to go, since I was like 15, 16 years old. And there was a few times where I'll be going to like UCLA, I'll be going to USC to go evangelize. There were countless of times where we've ran into people who've basically challenged us on a level where I've never really challenge myself, in the belief because I grew up in it. But the thing is that I was so into the WMSCOG doctrine that I just like, it never crossed my mind that I was wrong. It just never crossed my mind that that what this person is saying could be right. Because Anselm Hung came and he brought us the correct truth 100%, and he revealed God the Mother, and that's that. Like, there's nothing that can deter me from that belief. But what I would say is that I'd say around 2013, 2014, I started to do my own research online about the church.
Before you did, could you? Sorry, what made you start doing that? And then,
so what made me start doing it was just curiosity.
Okay.
I was just curious.
Okay.
I was just, I just wanted to see what people were saying about the church.
Yep.
And of course, at the time when I was doing my research online, I felt guilty because the church teaches that you're eating from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, right? So I felt, of course, deep down inside, I didn't want to feel like it, but I felt like I was disobeying God. I was acting like Adam and Eve, who took from the tree of knowledge of good and evil out of curiosity. So I was doing my research, right? And I would just read everything and be in denial. Like, no, that's not true. That can't be true. Like, the church could never sue anyone. Like, that can't be possible. Or God can't lie, about like having children, or God can't lie about there being not being God the Mother, not being the existence of God the Mother. But
you're referring to Aung San Hong's book.
Yeah. So it was just, I was creating all these excuses in my head, really being in denial, not wanting to believe the things that I was reading. And from that point, it was like off and on. I was reading stuff online, seeing what people were saying about the church. And then all those things that I was reading, all the things that I was learning online, I just kind of like stored it in my head somewhere. I blocked it away somewhere. Never really questioned any leaders in the church, because I knew I was going to get like rebuked for looking online.
Right.
Like, if I would have asked, then they'll be like, "Oh, how'd you find this out?" And I'm like, "Oh, because I saw this, on a YouTube video, or I saw this on the Examining WMSCOG website." And then I would automatically get rebuked, and I would be looked down upon. So I didn't want to do that. But yeah, that's pretty much how it all started. How doubts kept slowly but surely kept creeping into my head.
Okay.
So that's how it started.
So obviously, we're going to want to hear how you were ultimately led to leave the church. But before that, I guess just kind of tell us like about your experience in the church. I mean, I know there's good things. Like, we won't deny that there's good parts about the church. There's good people in there. There's sincere people like you. And this is what we say to members like regularly is like, we're not speaking against you guys. Like, we think you're just purposely out to deceive people, and like you're just like, we believe like the only people I'm really mad at is people like the Jew Kim, whatever the dude's name is.
Kim.
Like people like that, where it's like that dude is evil. I sincerely believe he's evil, and he knows what he's doing. The Zongil Ja, she knows what she's doing. She knows she's not God. People coming to visit her, members, and she doesn't even know her name. I've heard stories about members who went to visit her, and she's like, "Oh, what do you do? What's your name?" And it's like, what? Are you serious? You don't know my name?
Yeah.
And so stuff like that, like, see, like that kind of stuff, that makes me mad. But the members listening to this conversation, like, I don't think for 1 second that they're purposely deceiving people. I don't think that was you. So there's good people in the church, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. There's amazing people in the church. Like, to speak about my experience, and I'll get into like how the people are in the church, which is not a negative at all. But from when I was a child, I had made a ton of lifelong friends, that I knew that were in the church, because I didn't have a lot in common with kids outside of the church. because I couldn't celebrate like Halloween, Christmas. I couldn't do certain things on Saturdays, to hang out with my friends or anything like that. Then, of course, my only friends were really the ones that were in the church, So, and then as I was growing up in the church, I came across having a lot of like nightmares, because I'd say from the time of like between 2004 and 2012, it was really getting heated up about the talk about the end of the world, the talk about, Father is about to come and bring his children back to heaven, right? So things like that can kind of be really unhealthy for a child to go through, because we were being shown videos about like a nuclear war going to happen soon, like World War III, possibly a meteor striking the earth or something like that. And these things were, being taught to everyone in the church, including the children. So I found myself having like nightmares about the end of the world, nightmares of me like not making it to heaven because I was being a bad kid, Wow. So that was like a real thing that when I was in the church as a child, speaking for even current children that are still in the church right now, like there's many kids that could be going through the same thing.
Yeah.
Because it's still going on right now. Like, Father can come any day. You got to make sure you're on your best behavior. You're doing your best for father and mother, and trying to store up as many blessings as possible. And if you don't, then you're gonna end up on the wrong. You're gonna end up on the wrong side.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter what age you are. Like you could be, a child. You could be an elderly person. It doesn't matter. But yeah, like the people that I've met in the church, they're all amazing. There's of course a few bad apples, but for the most part, I made like really strong lifelong friends in the church. And what sucks is that now that I'm out and I've made videos against the church, now I'm seen as like their enemy.
So excommunicated. That
was like super tough, because I had to make that decision if I wanted to speak out against the church, if I wanted to bring awareness about this church. I already know what the church is going to say about me. Don't talk to Jordan. You can never talk to him again. He's a follower of Satan now. So it was pretty tough, because so many lifelong friends that I've made were in the church, and now.
Yeah, that's a bummer, man. That's a real bummer.
They can't talk to me.
So he just said something interesting, kind of goes back to your question about, like, because what you just brought up, the prophecies. They were making specific prophecies, right, about Armageddon, World War III, and they had a time date on them, didn't they? Was it 2012? Like, it's happening. It wasn't a question of maybe. It was like, this is an official prophecy, right? Yeah, so it
was a thing to where it wasn't like a core teaching of the church, where it was like, 2012. It was like subtle hints here and there. Like, this is going to be the last year. Like, mainly like the leaders. The leaders were the ones who knew, like, for sure, like 2012 is the end. But like for the newer members, the younger members in faith, they weren't really taught about 2012, but they were always given those little hints. Father's about to come. Even this year, 2012, this year, it may be the year, something like that. So, but for sure, 2012 was a thing in the church. Of course, they're going to deny it, but I've seen situations where members were selling their cars, were maxing out credit cards, were emptying out savings accounts, creating their jobs so they can preach 24 hours.
And this was around the 2012 time frame, because they were being taught that it was going to happen.
Exactly. So I saw all this stuff, and it affected myself as well, because I was in high school. I was playing football. I was a football player in high school, and the summer of 2012 was when I actually had quit. I had quit playing football, and the pastor of the LA church allowed me to start going evangelizing. So that's why I quit football, because I was able to start going out preaching and recruiting people. So during the summertime, when I was you know, when I should have been at football practice, you know, preparing for the football season. I was out like 2, 3, 4 hours north in Fresno trying to start like a house church. For like a week at a time, I would be helping trying to start it up, like preaching and recruiting. But yeah, I mean that was a big thing, you know, trying to get as many members in the church as possible, because again, if you didn't bear any fruit, you know, that was something that was detrimental.
Yeah.
If you didn't bring any people, and if you didn't make any recruits, then you were looked at as a bad tree. You know, so you know, even like I've known people in the church who could not bear fruit, who could not recruit anybody, and it really messed with their psyche. Like
Really?
They were like panicking, like they had, you know, they were so scared because they wanted to be able to present father and mother with the fruit that they bore. You know, so it was really a really tense time, especially at the end of 2012. It was really, really tense. The whole sanctuary of the LA church was like almost full of people who wanted to go preaching, when it's usually like not even a quarter of the sanctuary full. Like it was crazy. So many people were trying to go out to recruit people. Again, people were quitting their jobs. It was insane. It was crazy.
So I think the reason I brought that up is really to go back to Jesse's question about like reasons why people should leave, and just about that is another big thing. Even though, you know, like you said, they'll try to deny it, but I've heard that from multiple sources, and that this church was very specifically teaching, you know, the end of the world, prophesying basically. And you know, you look in the Old Testament. Where is it in the Old Testament? In Deuteronomy or something, where it gives the standards for
Deuteronomy 18 or something.
Somewhere where it gives the standard of like a
false prophecy,
false and true prophet, and it talks about if somebody makes a prophecy and it doesn't come to pass, like they're not of God, and you can just discredit everything they're saying basically. And so like if members could just see like that what you're saying is true, like you're not just making this up, and I've heard this from other people. The World Mission Society Church of God was teaching their members that the end of the world was coming in 2012. Whether they're doing it through.
It was funny. It was funny that one of the feasts that we kept, the pastor in LA, he was saying the closing prayer or the opening prayer. He was saying a prayer, right? And he actually threw it in his prayer. It was in 2012. He threw it in his prayer, and I think some people noticed, but he said, on this last day of Pentecost, on this last, like it was going to be the last
like
one.
This is it. Yep.
So, you know, I'm sitting there praying, and I opened my eyes like, did anybody else hear that?
Yeah. Like
you know?
Yeah. Like that's a.
Like he just threw it out there, and I'm like, okay. And then some members would talk about it after the service, like, yeah, this is going to be it. This is it.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you find that scripture?
Yeah, Deuteronomy 13. I was close. I was just 5 chapters away.
Yeah, go ahead and read that.
Yeah, if a prophet or a dreamer of dreams arises among you and gives you a sign or a wonder, and the sign or wonder that he tells you comes to pass, if he says, let us go after other gods, which you have not known, and let us serve them, you shall not listen to the words of that prophet or that dreamer of dreams. For the Lord your God is testing you to know whether you love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul. You shall walk after the Lord your God and fear him and keep his commandments and obey his voice, and you shall serve him and hold fast. But that prophet or that dreamer of dreams shall be put to death, because he has taught rebellion against the Lord your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt. So it's pretty severe. The
consequences of giving.
A false prophecy.
Yep. So that's just another really clear like reason why it's just like really if you stop. Like you've been able to do, and just really start thinking for yourself about these things, you can see like there's no way this church is true or of God. There's just too many blatant issues like that can't be, you know, they can deny, but they're there. So here's another question I had that I'm curious to get your perspective on is your experience in the church. the Bible's very explicit. It's very clear. Getting forgiveness, having salvation, is something that is given as a gift. It's by grace alone, through faith alone. I'm just curious, from your perspective, being involved in the church, do you feel like the atmosphere, the culture of that group is one of grace and like salvation is a free gift, or is it like a works-based system?
So they say that it's by grace. Many times in the pastor in LA's church's sermons, he would say, "Oh, other people say that, you know, the WMSCOG Society Church of God, you have to do a lot of work in order to be saved." But he would say, he's saying or something like, "Oh, we don't really have to do anything because God did everything for us. You know, all we have to do is keep the Passover." You know, that's like that's just keep the commandments of God, like the feast of God and the Passover, and you'll be good. But of course, in between the lines of, you know, being a hardcore member like I was, and like many others were, you know, it was. I did a video on my channel. The last video I had made, it was about a prayer list that, you know, there's a prayer list from the church that basically lists off what type of sins there are. So basically this prayer list shows that, you know, it basically shows the types of sins that the church considers a sin. For one example, it is a sin to desire sleep.
Wow.
So if you're tired and you would like some sleep, it is a sin to actually want to get some rest. Another one is, it is a sin to have a boyfriend/girlfriend, you know? So, and then the list is like 50 deep. It's like 50 deep. So even by just looking at the list from the church, you can see it's not really by grace. You know, they teach it as by grace, but really it's not, because there's so many restrictions that, you know, the church members are put on. You know, they can't really go out, have fun, have a good time with their friends. You can't really, like, associate yourself with the world. You can't do a lot of things, because if you do, then you have all those sins on you. And of course, the church teaches that, you know, you cannot have any sin. You have to be perfect in order to become part of the 144,000. You know, if you want to become a part of the 144,000, then you have to be perfect. You cannot have any of these sins. You know, so for sure, like, even another example could be, like, let's say if you didn't go out preaching, if you didn't go out recruiting, you were looked down upon.
Yeah.
You know, you weren't trying to bear fruit.
Yeah.
If you didn't bear fruit, like I mentioned earlier, then that looks really bad. You're a bad tree.
Yep.
And then they show that verse in I think it's John or Matthew, I'm pretty sure you know the verse, that God will eventually throw the bad branch, the bad tree, into the fire.
Yeah, because it didn't bear fruit. Yeah.
So if that's what they taught. The church, like, if you can't bear fruit, then you're a bad tree. If you're a bad tree, then you get thrown into the fire.
Yeah.
You know, so I mean,
what's interesting to me is, and that's what I keep coming across listening to different members' testimony, is that aspect of preaching, and how really like we focus a lot in our videos on Sabbath, Passover, stuff like that, and kind of trying to show from the Bible why, like, it's just clear the Bible, like, the New Testament has freed us from those requirements, but actually preaching the gospel is one of, like, the main works, it seems like, that are, like, required to earn salvation. And I don't know, you probably recognize this book, I'm guessing. Okay, somebody sent us this, and I've started reading. I want to read through the whole thing and start reading through some of these, and to hopefully get more in tune with how members think. But this is something he says right in the opening of the chapter of this book. This is Ju Chol Kim. So he says, God has taught us 3 ways to live. Just as our body maintains life by breathing, eating, and acting, so our spirit can live when it breathes through prayer, eats the spiritual food, the words of God, and acts through preaching. So right there at the beginning, he's basically saying, here's the 3 ways God has given us to have eternal life. And one of those is through preaching. Like, so he's just saying straight up, like, you have to preach to get eternal life.
Yeah.
And then you have like the New Testament that's saying, no, you're saved by grace through faith. That's it, apart from any works.
It was very clearly implied that if you didn't have the desire to preach, then you were indirectly like killing souls in a way.
Wow.
The way their logic is, you have every opportunity with whoever you meet. You have the opportunity to show them about God the Mother. You know, so, and if you miss that opportunity, then the church says that, oh yeah, you're just gonna let him die. You know, you're not gonna.
What a guilt trip.
Yeah.
You know? So they're thinking, yeah, it's a guilt trip. It's really a guilt trip, because then you would have you have members in a church, like they're at the grocery store and they're right next to someone in line, you know, and they're trying to preach to them about God the Mother, or you're in school or something and you're trying to preach to your classmate right next to you, you know, something like that.
Yeah.
You know, in the most inopportune times, the most not the greatest settings for trying to preach someone the Bible.
Yeah.
You would see that a lot.
Yeah. That's interesting.
Because they have that guilt trip inside of them, like, if I don't preach to them, then their blood is going to be on my hands, basically.
Right.
That's how it is.
So obviously, I could ask you, like, so I could say where I sit, where Jordan sits, right? We, like when Jesus says, who do you say that I am, you know, right? And they all say this, and he says, no, who do you say I am? And Peter confesses it. You're the Christ, you're the Son of God, and blessed are you, the Father's revealed this to you. So we believe Jesus, right? He's the only one with the words of life. We have peace in him and security in Christ and his sacrifice. So I'm asking, was there ever a moment when you were in this church that you were like, I'm set, I love the Lord, he loves me, I'm so good?
No. It's automatic no.
Yeah, man. So it was, would you say mostly you were operating out of fear? Man, I hope I make it.
For sure, yeah.
Wow.
It was always, they said in the church, they always told the members, like, don't ever, like, they literally said, don't ever think that you're set. Like, don't ever think that.
Literally the words.
And they would show a verse. They would show a verse in the Bible. I forgot which one it is, but it's in the New Testament, where it says, "Be careful to think that basically you're set. Like your faith is good, because then at that point, then you're easy to fall away. Basically, so it was something along those lines." But yeah, that was the mentality of the members. Like, don't ever think that you're set in your faith. Don't ever think that you can't do more for father and mother, right?
Yep.
Father and mother. And
wow.
You're always trying to, always try to like receive blessings.
Wow.
The cleaning the church, going out preaching, just really doing like buying food for the church. You know, so it was like, if you didn't do any of those things, then you were like, yeah, this guy's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
So you have Jesus saying, "Come to me, all you who are weary and heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Because my burden is easy, my yoke is light." And you have the world mission society saying, "Come to me, and you who are weary and heavy laden, I'll put a couple more bricks on your back to carry, and add a couple more things in your hands to make you feel more miserable and more guilty and more hopeless." And man, I think,
and they would say that, oh yeah, we should do it because when God came a second time, when our son home came a second time, he set the example for us. You know, they said he preached endlessly for 37 years. He fasted, for 7 days, and
leave his wife.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Sorry, low blow, but it's true.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah,
that's what they say. Like, God came into the earth in the human flesh.
Yeah.
100%. So what excuse do we have? What? So we should have no excuse to say like, oh, I can't go preaching today.
Yeah.
Whether you're sick, whether you're feel like, in whatever circumstance, you should have the desire to go recruit and save people.
I want to ask you this, because I've said this. We've run into them a few times. We literally just last night had a guy that was at the church we were hanging out asked us, because he has been running into them at the college campus here, and so we were giving him advice on how to love them but talk to them, and I said this and I want to test it with you, so if you need to just tell me I'm wrong on air, that's okay. Every guy I've talked to, it seems like it's a template. When I say something, they come back with registered this verse, this verse, this verse. If I challenge that, it's let's move on. So would you say most guys and women that are out there evangelizing, it's not that they're just like so in love with the word, it's that they have it memorized solid, that they know how to combat each answer or question?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, it gets to that point where at first, you do go out evangelizing, for, with that earnestness, like, I really want to save souls. But then, of course, you get into some of those heated arguments sometimes, and it's like a script, almost, reading off a script, like you had mentioned. Like, it's like a template, exactly.
Yeah.
Like, all the members, we have what's called like course classes almost. That's pretty much what it is. Like, it's a class, basically how to dispute, certain questions, and disputing certain questions with, answers, like only one type of answer that everyone kind of like memorizes,
right?
Memorizes and studies. So yeah, that's basically how it is. Like, you just hit the head on the nail.
Okay.
The nail on the
I got you. Yeah. No, I just because we noticed that we would to be honest, even we didn't know it at the time, but the guy, I had met with some guys at the river here in the city, and one of them, me and him went at it for a while in a loving way, but I was enjoying it because I love the word, so I was just kind of throwing some stuff back at him, and he met up with us again, and he brought somebody, and this guy knew his stuff, man. He walked through everything. We found out later he's the deacon, but even him, I feel like we would stop him in the middle of his spiel and drawing and question something. And so I just remember a couple times he kind of just looked at us. I know I hope his heart is good. But yeah, he kind of looked at us like we were stupid, but he never had an answer. He would just kind of like look at us like, what kind of question is that? And then he'd kind of move on.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I just remember, and even in that, I was like, man, it was so weird. He knew the word. He was flipping back and forth, but yet when it was something as simple like the Sabbath or Colossians and stuff like that, it was just like he was just almost annoyed. Like, why would you do this? Yeah. Why would you challenge me?
No, I can recall a few times where when I wasn't as well versed and someone would throw me off my rhythm, because it's kind of like a rhythm type thing when they're preaching out. Like, it's the same verses over and over and over. You're saying the same, like the same exact words, like almost robotically. And a couple of times I would get thrown off my rhythm. I'm like, really? Like, let me continue, let me finish. Right? And then you can ask your questions. But that's exactly how it is.
Last one, I promise. You take it from here.
You say whatever you want.
So I want to know, because like we've said, so we've already made this clear. I'll say it one more time. People in this church, we believe that their heart is sincere. They really believe they have the truth, and I give them kudos, because if you should be telling people if you have the truth. We've also run into some bad apples. We've run into some. We and some brothers have been treated very rude. I just heard that a member of the church and a guy at the college campus got in a shoving match over evangelism, and I know that's not the norm. I would like to know, though. I feel like I'm hearing the different talk, though. When it comes to, like, say, guys like us who, like, we really, like, we want to talk, like, let's study, and we want to continue to meet because we believe they have it wrong. What's it like behind the scenes in the church to people like us? Like, in the church to people who are loving, who really want to talk to you, but, like, you had said you were so, like, there's no way I'm wrong, so they're obviously wrong. I'm curious, was the speaking healthy even from the leaders? Were they healthy with how they would talk to the followers about how to treat people like us, or was it more like, we're
idiots, we're going to hell, we're following Satan?
No, I know exactly how you guys are. I'm using my mind from the church, from when I was in the church.
Gotcha.
They would say that you guys are almost like they would just blatantly say false prophets.
Right.
Like, if you knew your stuff, like I know you guys know your stuff, and if you two were going out and you had encountered a member of the church and you guys would be going back and forth, then after you guys conclude your conversation, then the two who were preaching from the church, they'll say, oh yeah, those are false prophets. Yeah. Like straight up, like those are false prophets. Yeah. They're straight up just trying to just find holes in the truth. Right. You can't find some holes in the truth. That's what they would say.
And in a lot of ways, they're probably saying that to each other really to try to encourage whatever doubts were trying to come up in their own hearts when they realize this guy knows his stuff and he's saying things I don't know how, so I'm going to say, he's a false prophet. That's what it is. Yeah, trying to explain it away so they don't have to think about it. Yeah.
Automatically, if you two gentlemen, I know you guys know yourself, they say, yep, false prophet.
Wow, move on. Yeah.
Okay.
Don't even try to say it.
So let's get to what finally caused you to leave. Like, what was the straw that broke the camel's back?
Right. So I had became a group leader in the church, in the LA church. So I had about 24, 25 members under me. And as I was beginning my leadership, me being so young, but I've known a lot of the members that were under me for a very long time. So it was cool. Like they didn't have a problem with me being a leader or anything like that. But the thing was, the leaders in the LA church, we had one meeting a month all together with the missionary of the church. So not the pastor, but with the missionary. And basically this meeting was almost like an update of what's going on in our group. And that update consisted of attendance, who's attending, how many times they're attending, who's preaching, how many times are all your members going preaching, and who's tithing. Who's tithing, who's not tithing. So as we were preparing for one of the meetings, I had asked one of the other leaders, who was a deacon, I had asked him, hey, so how are we supposed to know if our members are tithing? Because we already keep record of attendance and we keep record of who's going to preaching, who's going out recruiting. So then he just blatantly told me, oh yeah, just look in their envelopes. Wow. Look in their tithing envelopes to see if they're tithing. So, and in the back of my head, I was like, okay, like that's kind of weird because, tithing, which is giving 10% of your income, that's personal. That should be none of my business. Like, that should be none of my business. Like that should be only between that person and God. Like that should be. I should not have any part in seeing it. But thinking that, I'm in this leadership position. Father, Mother put me in this position for a reason, and these are the procedures that we have to go through in order to update the status of our group monthly. So, very almost feeling guilty. I had looked in the envelopes. I had, of course, checked off who was tithing, who was not. But that always just really put a bad taste in my mouth.
Yeah.
That's not something I should be looking at. Like it was, so that kind of planted the seed in my head. Like this really seems like a business meeting. Like we're creating PowerPoints, we're making like spreadsheets and a PowerPoint presentation to show the missionary. Like, yeah, this is the status of our group. This is how many are attending, and this is the goal for the next month of how many we want to attend. Right. And then we would show again, this is the current status of those who are preaching. And then next month we have the goal of, this many more members that need to go preaching. Or
that's a good business plan.
This month, this is how many people we recruited. And then the next month we want to double that number. We want to meet our monthly quota.
Right. Right.
So that's how the meetings went, once a month. And it really put a bad taste in my mouth, just seeing how it was like a business behind the scenes, because this was only for like the leaders of the church, the most trusted, right? The leaders, because they don't just make anyone a leader. They don't make anybody a leader. They really have to trust you. They really have to know who you are. They have to know that your finances are good. They have to know that your family situation is good and all. So they trusted us, to basically come up with those monthly quotas and It's crazy. So yeah, that happened, and I'd say about a year into being a leader, because what consists of being a leader is that you have to go preaching almost like every day of the week. So me working 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. every day, I went straight to church right after work. I would eat dinner after church. I would eat dinner after church, and then right after dinner, we would go out preaching. And then sometimes we would have meetings after preaching, so I wouldn't get home a lot of times until like 10:30, 11 o'clock, almost midnight sometimes. So, and I have a wife, and I have a son as well, a very young child. So I kind of felt that I was like missing a lot of time with them.
Right.
It wasn't really healthy for our marriage and the relationship between me and my child. So slowly but surely, I stopped going preaching, and of course they started looking at me different. Like, oh yeah, he's kind of like slipping away a little bit. That's how they would say, like, we have to reel him back in a little bit. So
yeah,
I stopped going preaching, and then I had also stopped like giving tithes as well. I had stopped tithing. So by this point, when I had stopped tithing, then I completely got demoted from being a group leader. Like, oh, you're not tithing anymore? All right,
wow.
You're done.
Wow. So your status in God's kingdom is dependent on how much money you're giving. And
exactly.
Wow.
And at that point, when I had stopped giving money to the church, I had noticed like the higher up Korean members would look at me a funny way, like a certain way. They'd give me like a certain type of look, like, yeah, I know you ain't giving, you're not giving any more money to the church, like.
Wow.
And then during like the autumn feast time, like the Feast of Trumpets, Day of Atonement, Feast of Tabernacles, I just stopped going. Like, it was one of those feasts where I just didn't show up. I just didn't show up at all. One, because during those feasts, you're required for like 7 straight days, you're supposed to go 5 a.m. and 7:30, I believe. So every single day. And I was like, man, this is just wearing on me, like mentally, being stressed out, working every day and then going to church right after, and then waking up super early in the morning to go to church. Like, it just wasn't healthy mentally. And you can see it in a lot of the members too. Like, they'll be like mentally and physically, they'll look worn out. Like, you can see bags under their eyes and just like sleep deprived. It was crazy. And I just had stopped going, and every single piece of information I had locked inside of my head, it all just came rushing forward. Like, it just started making sense. Everything I had seen online, everything, and seeing how the church was being ran by like a business. Yeah. Everything just started to make sense, and I was like, yeah, this is. It was difficult too, because I can't even remember exactly what I was thinking, because
I can't imagine.
I was like a part of this thing for 15 years. Like, it was a part of it. It's
who you were.
Into me, It was like a part of me. Like, a part of me, I just had to like just rip off like a Band-Aid,
Yep.
And it was.
I'm glad you did.
And it was tough because I knew I was like, I'm not. Most of my lifelong friends, I'm not going to be able to see again. I'm not going to be able to talk to again. And my grandmother, who was a deaconess, she was probably going to freak out, She was going to freak out some type of way, thinking that I'm going to go to hell, and
So with that, like, again, say something to, because there's members who are on different levels of that same process that you were going through. There's some who are like they're just about to start this process. There's some who are in the middle. There's some who are at the end, and there's still, maybe even some who are like years out, but they're still struggling with anxiety and like fear and doubts. And so I guess, what would you say to encourage them? And I know this is kind of maybe a lot to ask, but just to encourage those who are just struggling with that anxiety, and like it's a paradigm shift, really. It's like your whole it literally is like part of yourself you're having to say goodbye to.
Yeah, exactly. It was like a complete 180. What I would say is, me personally, my I kind of went into a stage where I didn't like really talk to anyone for a few months straight, besides my wife and my son. And I just didn't want to talk to anyone. But personally, my therapy was just doing as much research as I could, to validate that this church is not the truth. Because if you have that mentality, or a little bit of the mentality that this church could be the truth, then you're going to be thinking to yourself, "Oh, I'm disobeying God right now. I've left the church. I've looked online. That means I'm gonna go to hell and I'm gonna burn, forever."
Yeah.
So to kind of like erase that thought process, I kind of just did. So I did a lot of research.
Yeah.
I did everything I could to just learn about like all the fallacies, the negative things about the church, what they lied about. That was my therapy, and just validating, the reason why I had left.
Yeah, Jesus said
that's the best.
You will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. And so that's great. So basically, you're just saying, like, to those people, whatever spectrum you're on, just like keep pressing forward into looking into this. Actually, objectively look at what is true about this, and the more you do that, the more you're going to see is that you have nothing to worry about, because this church is false. There's just, if you actually look at the evidence, it's false. There's no question about it.
Yeah. You should have really nothing to worry about, really. I mean, everything that I've seen, researching about the church online, it's been backed up with evidence, and the stories are consistent. If there's not really a video of a former member that you can say that they're lying, really, because we've all gone through the same exact thing.
Yeah.
No matter if we've been in New Jersey, Los Angeles, Seattle, we've all been going through the same exact thing. So it really kind of sucks that the church tries to say that we're lying about our experience, because how can all of us former members who made videos, we didn't just
collaborate
together and collaborate. What are we gonna say? What are we gonna say about the church this time? That didn't happen.
And people know that, who are watching, I think, who are obviously members. Like, even at the beginning when you were naming those, I never heard those 13 things. So like, even the beginning, like, I know for a fact members who are watching this are gonna be like, okay, there's no way he would have known that. Like, that's insane.
That's good.
And just to encourage anybody who's watching now, I know the church says it's a sin to get on. It's a sin. These are Paul's words in his first letter to the Thessalonians. He says, "Do not quench the spirit, do not despise prophecies, but test everything. Hold fast to what is good. Abstain from every form of evil." So Paul's advice at the end of this letter, he's encouraging them. God has sanctified you, all this stuff. Test everything. So like, there is nothing biblically that says it's a sin to test the word of God. If you are on the truth, you should be able to withhold somebody challenging you. Like, it should stand.
And that's like, so like, to members, like, you just heard Jordan, a former member, telling you what you should be doing is testing the church. And now you have Paul telling you the same thing. Yeah. So, like, as far as commands of God go, like, this is pretty clear. Like, you could say this is a command. Test everything. Yeah. God is not a God who wants us to just blindly leap into some dark place. Like, even when Jesus was on the earth, he was constantly saying, look, I'm doing these signs so that you may believe. He didn't just say believe and then take your brain and toss it in the trash can and don't ever think about this. The whole way the resurrection of Christ happened was set up so that it was evidential in nature, so that the disciples could go and say, look, you guys know, like, you can go and test this for yourself. It wasn't like, don't go look, because we know there's no basis here. So if you go digging around, you're going to find, skeletons in the basement.
It's at the end of the gospel. At the end of the Gospel of John, is we wrote these things so that you might believe. Like, it's not. So it's not. That my heart goes out right now. I just can't imagine, when you're part of your life, and then the people who you're looking up to, your leaders, are telling you, don't go online, you sinner. Like, I can't imagine. Like, that would be scary. And I can't imagine you're researching and you probably are feeling that crazy guilt. Like, oh, what am I doing? I'm just as bad as Adam and Eve. And so I hope whoever's ever watching this can feel encouraged in this moment. You watching this and you testing this is actually the call of God to test things and to see if it's the truth.
Yep. So real quick, I know you got to go soon. I want to ask, and I don't want to give out, I won't give out this member's name, but we asked specifically a member when we're sitting down having a conversation in a coffee shop, and we asked what happens to the World Mission Society Church of God, what happens to your faith if John Gil Ja, this woman, dies, or not if.
Yeah.
And for us, it's like when, like she's going to die.
Yeah, when.
So it's like when, and he told us and that. Well, it's not true. Like that proves that the church is false. Like it's all over basically.
Yeah.
Obviously, we know when that happens, they're gonna do something. They're gonna say, "Oh, well, she." But I'm wondering, like, what was as for you as a member? Did that ever cross your mind? Did people talk about that? Did you have was there a backup plan for when that happens?
No, yeah, that most definitely crossed my mind, and I've had like 1 or 2 conversations with other members, like. Yeah, what if she does die? Like, but of course it was automatically shut down. Like, no, it's impossible. She's God or whatever. But I already know that for sure when she does come to die, because she's getting up there in age. She's almost like 80 years old, and she's from what I've heard, she's pretty like her body's wearing down on her. So it's going to happen sometime soon. But when it does happen, I know 100%. That they're going to come up with some crazy reason, trying to use the Bible. Like, they're probably going to say something along the lines of, you couldn't change fast enough for mother. Like,
they'll blame it on you.
They'll
blame it on the members trying to guilt.
Which is crazy because I don't know if you know much about Jehovah's Witnesses, but Jehovah's Witness, the Watchtower, has multiple failed prophecies, and a good amount of them, I think they blame the church. Your faith wasn't good enough. You weren't ready. There's always a way to throw it on them.
That's what they're going to say for sure.
Yeah.
Like, I can already see it happening.
Yeah.
Man.
Sad. Well, I think we want to let you go. I know you want to get to your family, and so I just want to say, like, man, how glad I am that you get to go enjoy a movie with your wife.
Yeah.
Just something that
sure.
you probably, like, members can't relate to a lot of that. Like, you just get to go hang out and watch a movie. And I just think, too, of, like, the New Testament, where, like, I was just thinking during this conversation, a challenge to members is, like, how many times do you ever see Paul or Peter or James telling the believers to go out and evangelize? Like, it's kind of a weird thing. Like, they're never saying that. They're just saying, like, live as lights in the world. Obviously, they're saying, like, live a quiet, peaceable life, things like that. Like, do work with your hands. So, like, the biblical way is, like, there are people who are called to go out and specifically preach, and we're not denying that. But, like, overall, like, this burden that they put on members to where they can't even go out and enjoy life like you are.
Yeah.
Like, I just feel burdened for people, and I feel so glad that you get to lead this conversation and just go do that without the pressure of, like, man, this movie's going to send me to hell. I better really enjoy it, kind of thing.
Yeah,
so, and then just kind of as the final thing, I guess, and then I'll let you share whatever final thoughts you have, is I just want to encourage you, and I know we both want to say, is that to you and to other members who have come out with your experiences, that, man, I can't imagine how hard it is to even think about God, to think about the Bible. And so I get that. But I would just say, like, what you already know is that the World Mission Society Church of God is not Christianity. And that does not reflect what Jesus truly taught. And it's just interesting. You look at the history, like, Jesus was on this earth. He died, he rose again. I think evidentially there's just no denying. That's something you can go dig into all you want, and you're going to only find that the Bible lines up with reality. And so, I just encourage you. Like, I don't think what your experience is, like, out of God's hands. I think there's great and good things that he has planned for you still. And so I'm just encouraged that you're out. I'm encouraged to hear your humble heart in all this.
Yeah.
And I don't get at all that you're just bitter toward the church or members even. You just want to help people. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, it's great, man. Awesome.
So any last words you'd want to say to members?
Well, I if for any current members watching this, again, like, it's probably been said throughout this video many times, but this is I'm obviously not lying about my experience. many of these other members are not lying. We're not trying to speak negative. We're not trying to bring you down or anything like that. We just want to make sure that you're aware that the church is doing, some of these types of negative things in the background and behind the scenes. And pretty much all they want is your time and your money. The most, two of the most important things that, that it is to a human being. We don't want to lose those things because it's needed to survive.
Yep.
It's needed for survival and, for your good mental health.
Yep.
So just for your mental health, for your sanity, for your family, just really look into, really look into the details in this video and other videos as well, and just really, really weigh your options and seeing if you really want to continue in an organization like this.
Yep.
It's good,
That's
man.
good.
Yeah.
Great. Well, thank you so much. Thanks for taking the time to do this, and tell your wife thank you from us. And,
Yeah.
enjoy the movie. I'm actually hoping to see that soon. I'm curious how it is. Hopefully it's funny.
For sure. All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jordan. Talk to you
Have
later.
a good night.
Bye.
All right.
So, yeah, we're going to keep going for a minute if that's okay with you. You can try to get up if you wanted to stop.
Sorry.
No, I was kidding.
It shows we're not perfect.
Yeah. First I want to say, I feel like I was shouting through that whole video. So for you, I don't know. I had to talk loud to make sure he was hearing. So if I sound like I'm yelling, that's why.
Well, I can't hear it, but this ear's down.
You can't hear it. Do I need to say that again? Okay. I was really calling you names and stuff. But, so I had a couple things I just want to make sure I hit here. Let's see. So one thing is, man, we keep saying it. I would love if a member, somebody who's still in the church, whether you're on the verge of leaving or you're deep into it, will you please email us and would you do a video like that with us? If anything, what that video did, it just made me feel more compassion and love. So there's in no way do we want to just get on and have a debate and try to prove you wrong. That's not at all. I would just love to talk to you and just kind of hear your point of view. What is it that's, even after maybe hearing an interview like this or hearing some of the videos we've made, what makes you decide to remain in the church? And so if there's anybody who's brave enough, I know it would be a difficult thing. And so it would be, it'd be a big deal if you'd do that. If you'd be willing to come on and just talk with us about these things. Would you think that'd be a good idea?
Yeah, I think it'd be great. And we could even do if you wanted to email us, and just to make sure, I can't blame you. I'm sure it'd be easy to think, they'll just get me on air and they'll record me and they'll try to trip me up on my words. We won't do that. We could even send you boundaries, or even do a template of hey, here's 5 things we want to talk about. These are the templates, and then we'll just ask you. And but we really mean that. We love you guys. If we got you on a video and tried to trip you up, then we'd be hypocrites.
Yeah. Yep. And then also, I just wanted to say, as a side note, not a kind of a side note, but also in reply to so many comments I get all the time. And one of the first things that members will say is they'll go to, obviously, what we talk about all the time, Saturday service, and they'll accuse me of, we're attending Sunday, and Sunday's, a pagan holiday or a pagan day. So what I want to just tell you is that I just came from Saturday service, the community that the main church community that we function in, the main service really is on Saturday night. And so I say that sort of humorously, but also just to tell you, you guys keep saying you keep service on Sunday and Saturday is the right day to do it. Well, we actually attend church on Saturdays is one of the main services in our community. So that's kind of a side thing. Yeah. And then lastly, I just want to say that, I so appreciate Jordan coming on and doing this, and so appreciate his bravery, really, because I know there's so much fear built into this group where, for members who have left, we're talking to many different people who are just are carrying this baggage of fear of man, are these guys going to sue us? Are they going to attack us? And man, that just says, first off, we've talked about this, that says so much about this church, that members who leave have to be afraid of the retaliation of the World Mission Society Church of God. Like, if you leave and you start speaking out against it in any way, they are going to attack you. And that is so unchristlike. That's so against everything that Jesus taught us to be like, and to the way to treat our, he says to love your enemies, do good to those who persecute you. For those who are speaking against you, he says, just bless them. If somebody curses you, he doesn't say sue them or curse them back. He says return that curse with a blessing. Return it with blessing and with favor and doing good to them. And so why if you're a member of the church, why is it that your organization is not following that? And so I just say, if you are if you can relate to Jordan's story and any part of it, if you're coming out, we just want to say, like, we do these videos in the hopes that we're not just getting people to leave the World Mission Society Church of God. Like, that is not our end goal. Isn't just to get you to leave. Our hope is that you come to realize that Jesus is the truth. Like, we're trying to get people to go to Jesus, and our encouragement would just be for those of you who are having a similar experience to Jordan, is just to realize, again, kind of what we're just saying, is that the World Mission Society Church of God and the things you experience or you might have experienced in that group does not define what Christianity really is and is really meant to be. And so if you have a horrible taste in your mouth from the experience you had in the World Mission Society Church of God, maybe it makes you not even be able to look at the Bible without this distaste and like, man, I could never go back. Just know that whatever those feelings are, whatever that distaste is, it's not actually this. Like, that's like these blinders that have been put over you that just need to be taken off by Jesus, and he can do that. So
that's good.
And I would just kind of say too, like in John 6, where Jesus was saying these hard things to the disciples, and he said, you must eat my flesh and drink my blood. So that bothered the disciples. It was weird. It was different. It was confusing. It didn't make sense, and it made them want to leave Jesus, to say, like, I'm done with that. Like, that was a weird experience, and I don't want to go back to that. But what Jesus said, are you guys going to leave too? Are you going to, is this experience going to cause you to completely abandon me? Like, it's good for you, abandon the World Mission Society. I don't know why I'm pointing this. Abandon this, abandon the World Mission Society Church of God, abandon Zongilja, abandon all that is. But I think Jesus would ask you, are you going to go away from me? Like, is that going to lead you to also leave me? Because you have to do something with the historical person of Jesus Christ. Jesus died, but he rose again. Zongilja is going to die, and she's not going to get back up. Aung San Hong died, and he's still in his grave. You could go, and if you want to break the law, you could dig up his bones, and they're still there, rotting away, because he was not Christ. Zongilja is not God. She will die soon, and she won't rise again, because she's not God. She's a human being who's lying and deceiving you. And so I say all that to say, if you're going away, if you're wanting to leave the World Mission Society Church of God, please don't leave Jesus. Let him teach you the truth about who he is, and it'll take time. Right? Like, it's not gonna be it's gonna be hard, but he will help you, and like he says, if you seek him, you will find him. You will find the truth about him.
And I just, if I can sum this up, like, real quick, just what comes to my mind and my heart is, you look at the God of the Bible, you see the very first Adam and Eve sin. Who's the one that goes out towards them? It's Yahweh. Where are you? Who's the one that clothes them better than what they did because they got figs and leaves? It's Yahweh. Who's the one throughout the Old Testament when Israel keeps going away, keeps being a harlot, and all these things? Who keeps drawing them back in? It's the God of the Bible. And then who comes into the world, into the suffering, into the sin, goes low, washes the feet of his disciples, including the one who is going to betray him? It's Yahweh. So it's just like the God of the Bible wants a relationship. He wants a healthy relationship. There's a reason we're called children of God, and it's not an abusive type of relationship. It's he loves us. John, in the Gospel of John, who's the disciple whom Jesus loved, laying on Jesus's bosom, laying on his bosom, just anyways, and then he comes, sorry, last thing. Coming to Peter after Peter's denied him on the beach, and he just feed my sheep, and just loving Peter. You can just see the friendship, the teacher. So my question, my challenge is, does this God, I literally just, you can test everything I just said. I just described the God of the Bible. Does this God line up with the God you're used to right now? Do you feel loved? Do you feel excited to be in a relationship with the Lord? Do you feel like he actually loves you, draws near to you, and that you can grow in him? And are you excited for his return? Our blessed hope. Are you excited for that, or are you dreading it in fear, like Jordan had said? So I just challenge this church. Get alone, be in the Word, and like Jordan said, it's all these things you're hearing are lies and shades over your face. It's actually not the Word of God. There's a reason that this has stood. There's a reason that people today in universities are having debates over this because it's there. Jesus is a real man. He rose again, and through I'll say through persecution in the Middle East right now, people are leaving Islam and finding true life, peace, love, and joy in the man Jesus Christ. Just with the Bible. They don't need World Mission Society. They don't need to be told the great mystery. They get handed a Bible and they find Jesus in it.
No, that's good. And I would say like it's got to be so confusing for those of you who have come out and to even like think about what would it even look like to try to continue a relationship with God. Like that has to seem so like big and scary, and or I don't even know what the word would be. Just like I don't want that. Like I don't even know how to process that. And I understand that. Like I understand why you'd feel that way. But then I'd also just almost say as a word of encouragement, sort of what you were saying. Like there's a reason that the things you are believing and walking in, like there was I think you were so convinced of it and you were so passionate about it, and in many ways because you sense like the air of truth that was coming from it. The problem is it was just being twisted in such a way that it was no longer truth. But I think deep down, I think you know that this has something to it. There's something to it. And again, all we're trying to say is we really, really want to encourage you guys that you would don't abandon the Word of God, don't abandon God, don't abandon Jesus because of these people, because of this group that has come and stood in front of it and distorted and twisted this stuff. Because Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. And I promise you, if you seek him, you'll discover that. You'll find that the things that your heart longed for as you were in this group, your heart was longing and searching for God. There's a reason you were involved in it and staying in it, is because deep down he has made us in his image. One single image, a male image too, not two images. God has made us in his image. And so internally we know there's a God, and we know we want to have a relationship with him. He wants to have a relationship with us. And so you still, even if you're walking away from the World Mission Society Church of God, you still know that deep down. And so I just encourage you, don't harden yourself against that. Don't push that down. Don't run away from that. But just seek the truth. And it's as simple as just simple prayer, just saying, God, I'm so confused right now that I don't even want to pray to you right now. I'm so confused, and all the stuff I've been through. I guarantee you, he knows what you're feeling and he sympathizes with it. I don't want to keep dragging on, but you think of like Mary and Martha and Lazarus, and you see Jesus weeping because of this experience that was there, this pain and this turmoil that they were feeling over the death of their brother. And so Jesus is a merciful and sympathizing high priest. So he's not looking at you like angry and condemning you for having spent so much time in this group, and he's not going to condemn you for whatever length of process it takes to get back to a place where you're walking with him. He's going to be with you patiently, walking with you every step of the way, and he's the one to do the hard work too. He just wants you to make that humble decision to stay with him and not run away from him.
And as Jesus followers, and me believing this is the divine word of God, just to brag on our God and compare it to the world mission, I can say, go abide in the word, go pray, go seek the Lord, because I believe God on his word. and I don't have to hover over you. I don't have to say, don't read that alone. Make sure you come to my group and I'll show you what it says. My God is bigger than that. My God is bigger than that. He will speak to you through this word, and I can trust that. And there's such freedom in that. Like, I literally cannot imagine feeling like I have to hover over people to make sure they get it just right and correct everything wrong so they fall into place with World Mission Society. Like, that should say something right there, that they have to watch you every step of the way.
It really goes back to what you kind of started off with, is just like this, the difference between what this Bible, what God's Word really teaches, what Jesus really taught, and what this is teaching you, the World Mission Society. The difference is that this is teaching you God's up here and there's this ladder, and it's if you read this doctrine, what it's telling you is that you have to make the energy and the effort to hopefully figure out how to climb up this ladder, and one day maybe you'll reach God, and then maybe He'll accept you. What this really teaches is that we're down here helpless and hopeless. We can't do anything, and God has climbed down the ladder that we couldn't climb up. He's come down for you when you could do nothing to get up to Him. And that's what He's doing now. That's what He wants to do with you, not just 2,000 years ago, in Jesus. That was like the pivotal moment of Him climbing down the ladder to say, hey, I love you, even though you have nothing really to offer, and even though you might not preach enough, or keep Sabbath or whatever. That's not the point. The point of this book is that God loves us, and we love because He first loved us. And so God is a God, this Bible teaches about a God who climbs down the ladder, and He comes down to get us. Like Romans 5, it's while we were yet sinners, Christ died for us. It was while we were weak at just the right time. That's when God said, that's when I'm going to step in and help them. And so, this and this are teaching different things. So if you have a bad taste in your mouth from this, that's understandable. I get it. Run away from this.
Yes.
But don't run away from this, because there is truly good news here.
Yes.
There's true peace, there's true joy, true freedom that you can find in here. And again, I keep coming back to what I feel strongly in my heart is that it's okay if it's a process. It's okay if this isn't like an overnight thing where you're like out of the World Mission Society into continuing to read the Bible and just feeling fine about it all. It's fine if it's a process where little by little, if you stay with God, He will set you free. He will transform you. He will reveal to you the truth about who He is and what truly is peace and joy, the freedom He really wants to give you.